Hi, let us understand how to execute Checkstyle task as a part of Ant build process. In the earlier lecture, we have seen how the Checkstyle task going to get integrated with build, and in high level how Apache Ant will be used for the build process. I do have a sample Ant project and I will be adding the Ant project, the required configurations, commands as a part of the lecture. Now let us have a quick overview on the project I have for the demo purpose. I do have a small Java project where I do have an XML called build.xml. Let us go over the build.xml. So this is going to have the target, what target I want to execute. When I say checkstyle, what it will be doing. So it will be having a checkstyle task and all the parameters required for that particular task I will be passing through it. The documentation of the checkstyle very clearly it defines for the checkstyle task what are all the parameters can be passed and which are all the parameters are mandatory. For example, file to run the checkstyle on, that will be mentioned with the attribute file. So I will be having a file parameter or file set. So here I will be having a file set. So this is going to define a set of files where the checkstyles should run on. Either I should have a file or file set or path element. So any one of these three is mandatory to define against which source code I am going to execute the checkstyle and where the configuration file is available. In my case, I do have the file set and that is available within the src directory, and that should include all the files having the extension .java. And I do have the config parameter where I have mentioned checkstyle.xml. The checkstyle.xml, it has the definition on what type of check to be done. In a high level, I'll explain. In the future lecture, we are going to have detailed discussion on what is this checker, what is tree walker, and what is this module. So here I am going to verify for return null instead of boolean check. Whether it is returning a null instead of boolean, I am going to have that specific check for this specific Java project. And within the src, I do have a sample Java file which has a small class and a method which is going to return boolean, but implicitly it's returning a null. So the checkstyle should identify this particular issue and it should report. So what do we have within the location? We do have the build.xml and we do have the checkstyle. Build.xml will have the instruction on what are all the tasks should get executed in an automated way, and checkstyle will have instructions on what check to be done. So I am in this specific location. Let me open the shell and let me execute the command and checkstyle, and it will look for the XML file build.xml, and within that it is going to execute the target checkstyle. So within the build.xml it will be executing the target checkstyle, and here I do have the instructions on what task to get executed, where the configuration file is, against what source the checkstyle should happen, and what is the format of the output. It is going to put the output in an XML file, and the file will be of name checkstyle_report.xml. And I have put in a condition fail on violation what it should happen. So it should not fail. If there are any violation, it should continue with the build process or the next target that is defined within the Ant. And this is available within the property as well. Fail on violation, what it should happen, and what is the maximum number of error, maximum number of warnings, all other parameters we can add as a part of this specific task. So with all this configurations and the file ready, let me execute the command and checkstyle. So it will try to look for all the dependencies that is required for the checkstyle to work, and if it is not available, it will download all the required dependency and do the build process. Once the build gets over, the output should be available as an XML file that we have defined within the configuration location. So the checkstyle run happened and the build process got over in X number of seconds. Let me get into the project location. I should have the file checkstyle_report. I can open this particular XML and look for the error. I can open it within the browser as well to have a formatted view. So I do have an error in line number 6 where the severity it says the error, and the message is method declares to return boolean and it returns a null. So it correctly identified the issue existing within the code that we have given as an input for analysis. So in a quick summary, we have seen how to execute the Ant task Checkstyle as a part of Ant build process and generate the report and see the report.